Good morning. Or actually, it's not really morning right now. It is the afternoon, but it doesn't matter because I am on spring break. My name is Sierra. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. I'm currently a first-year nursing student, and I actually just finished up with my second term of nursing school. So now I will be in my third term, but I'm currently on spring break, which is why it is the afternoon and I'm still in my pajamas because I don't care. A lot of people were asking me what my plans were for spring break, and in my younger days, I always had plans. I always had trips planned, something planned, but to be honest with you, all I wanted to do for this spring break was, hold on, she wants to say hello. She likes her belly rubbed. As I was saying, all I really wanted to do for this spring break was just relax and get things organized and cleaned and relax and eat good food and then relax some more. So that's exactly what I'm doing. A week really is not that long, and I just needed to recoup from my past term. So in this video, I'm just going to talk to you guys about my second term of nursing school, and I just want to give you a recap of how it went and everything that went on and just all the dirt about what really happened. All the good stuff, the juicy stuff that I wasn't able to film because I was just so busy with school. For starters, I am in a 2-year ADN nursing program, which means I will graduate with my associate's degree of nursing in 2 years. And then after that, we have an option through my program to go straight into a BSN program. So we could do 1 more year, and that can be online while we're already working as a nurse. So this way is just kind of like a quicker route to graduate and begin working and making money. And there's pros and cons about either program, a BSN program or an ADN program. But I know a lot of hospitals and other places of work are really wanting people to have their BSN now. I chose the ADN program. Well, I mean, when I say chose it, it's actually the only program that I applied for, but I like it for many different reasons. It was a lot cheaper because I'm going to a community college. What is that? I can start working quicker and making money quicker. I am 25, and something that I have wanted to talk about is, you know, for me, I feel like I kind of started school in the nursing direction kind of late because there are people in my program who are 19 and 20, meaning they just went directly from high school, knew that they wanted to be a nurse, and started working on all their classes for their prerequisites for the program. I just wasn't really sure, but I want to touch base on, you're never too young. I mean, obviously you have to be a certain age, you have to graduate high school, but also you're never really too old to start nursing school. And if you're contemplating it and you really want to, don't let that hinder you, because there are people who are 15, 20 years older than me in my cohort, and then there are people who are 7 years younger than me. You have a wide variety of people, and if it's something you feel passionate about and it's calling you and you want to do it, don't let your age or the amount of years it's going to take hinder you from pursuing that. Anyways, that was a long ramble, but I just want to get into this term and my overview of it. I'm going to tell you guys my grades. I'm going to be honest and keep everything completely real. So I just finished up my second term, and what that means is we have 3 terms per year. You can also call them quarters, and they consist of 10 weeks. So we have one in the fall, one in the winter, and one in the spring. And then we have 2 years of that, and then we graduate and then move on to take the NCLEX. So I finished my second one, which was my term in the winter, and that was without doubt the hardest 10 weeks term of school I have ever experienced, ever. It was crazy. We just immediately hit the ground running with assignments and learning, and it was so overwhelming. It was a lot. I was in Pathophysiology 1, Chronic Illness 1, and Pharmacology 1. I was also working twice a week during this term. I was nannying, and it was a lot to juggle. I only worked about 16 hours, but every minute and hour counts when you're doing school, and luckily enough, I'm able to do schoolwork some of the time when I am nannying. So I've been really fortunate for that. I'm curious though, how many people are in nursing school right now and working? I just wonder. There's a lot of people in my cohort that were working for our first term of school when we only had 1 class, and then everybody I know kind of went off the grid and quit their jobs during our second term immediately when it started. We were all thinking, oh, we can handle it, we can juggle it, it'll be fine. And then once the first week hit, it was like, no, there's not going to be any time. So I'm curious how many people are able to work and go to school and how that experience has been. So yeah, comment down below. I would love to hear that. Anyways, as you can see, it was a very busy term. There's just so many reading assignments, so many homework assignments, and then on top of the 3 classes that I'm taking, we also have our clinical. So our clinical consists of 10 hours once a week. We spend half the day at the hospital and then half the day on our school campus. And this is where we're actually doing hands-on skills, we're applying our knowledge and working with patients, doing simulations in the labs and things like that. And we have several assignments for clinical as well that are not part of the 3 classes. We actually had an extremely consuming assignment in clinical once a week, and it was our patient care plan. I've mentioned this so many times on my channel, but it's also called our clinical judgment worksheet. And what this consists of is we pick a patient in the hospital. We have to perform a full head-to-toe assessment on that patient, then gather a lot of information from their charts. And by the time we're completed with this assignment, it's about a 19 page document we submit once a week. It takes anywhere from like 8 to 12 hours to finish. So that's a whole other thing that we have to do that is not part of our 3 classes, but we are using the knowledge we gain from the 3 classes to do our assessment and fill out all this information and interpret our data and our pathophysiology of the patient and all that good stuff. I really do feel like I learned more in these past 10 weeks than I have learned at any point in school. So as difficult and hard as this term was, it was absolutely amazing, and I feel so grateful to be in nursing school and to be learning these skills. So let's talk about each class individually. So chronic illness was a really interesting class. Each week we had discussion posts that we did. Each clinical group got assigned a chronic illness, and we had to live with that chronic illness for the 10 weeks of school. We answered various questions and did immense research on our chronic illness. And then every other week we did something called a personal resource manual, and we did this with our clinical group, and we did different essays on chronic illnesses such as like asthma, diabetes, things like that. These were group projects, and they allowed us to learn a lot of information as well. And then we had various quizzes, we had our midterm, and then we had our final. In that class, I got an 86 on my midterm, and then I got an 86 on the final. I didn't feel like that class was actually super difficult, and it probably would have been easier if you were just taking it alone. But amongst the other 2 classes that are really difficult, it's chaotic because there's a lot of assignments. I ended the term with a 91.89, and my teacher rounded it up to a 92, which is an A in my program, a 92 and above. So I got an A in the class. I'm really happy, and I really do feel like I learned a lot in that class. Pharmacology was difficult in the sense of it required just a lot of memorization, a lot of teaching on your own. I watched a lot of different YouTube videos discussing the different medications, and I found those to be really helpful, and I can share the links down below if you guys would like. Also in class we had various quizzes, and then we had several projects that were due, and these projects were to help us learn the medications. So we had a medication mansion, pharmacology charts, and then a pharmacology drug resource guide, and one of them was worth extra credit, and we got extra credit if we hand wrote them. So there was a lot of extra credit available in our class, which was awesome. We had a midterm and a final, and I can't remember what I got on the midterm. I want to say maybe an 86, and then on the final I believe I got a 90. I actually had over 100% in that class when the term ended, and that was just because we had extra credit available. I did all of it. I really tried. Obviously learning about medication is so important because there can be errors, and that's really when you can hurt somebody if you're not paying attention to detail. But I do feel like a lot of the medication information that you're gonna learn is really when you're doing the hands-on experience, because I can sit down, try to memorize all this information about each medication, but when I'm actually administering it in the hospital to my patients, that's when it's starting to click and I'm really understanding it. Not to mention there's so much to learn about each medication. You know, you have the classification, the nursing considerations, the drug interactions, the side effects, the therapeutic outcomes, the mechanisms of action. There's a lot to learn in what I found easiest is to kind of divide the medication up into classifications. So if you try to learn about all of the NSAIDs at one time, opioids, antibiotics, things like that, it's easier to learn them with classification rather than trying to learn them each individually, because a lot of them are super similar. Pharmacology, I would say, is just consists of a lot of memorization, and I really found videos on YouTube super helpful. There is a channel, I think it's called Simple Nursing, and he teaches about a lot of different stuff. I looked at his pharmacology videos, and he has all these mnemonics and all of these tips for the NCLEX as well, so I found that to be super helpful. Yeah. I have pharmacology 2 next term, so I'm not done with it just yet. And lastly, moving on, I had pathophysiology, and that was the hardest course I've ever taken. I would say pathophysiology is so difficult because you are using all of the information that you have already gained from anatomy and physiology. And if you're not super familiar or refreshed with your A&P courses, you can forget a lot of the stuff that you need to know. It's like your basic foundation going into pathophysiology. So prior to doing that, I'd recommend anybody to brush up on A&P as much as you can. I wish I would have done that because I didn't. And I took A&P like over 2 years ago. And although there's a lot of information that came back, there's some things that I forgot, like specific anatomy of the lungs and things like that. Pathophysiology also is so much information in such a short period of time. I think we covered, I think we covered around 17 chapters in 10 weeks. 18, something like that, and it's so much information. You can just drive yourself bonkers. It is so much reading, so much information, and it's not like A&P. What are you doing? It's not like A&P where you just have to A&P, sorry, I take that back. There's parts of A&P where it's not just memorization, but I'm thinking of the parts of A&P when you learn about the bones and the muscles, and you just have to kind of memorize that. Patho is like, it's applying all the body systems together and really diving deep and connecting this and this and this that's happening to a person and how it's all connected and trying to understand that. It's just dense. It's a lot of information. I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't even read all of the chapters out of the book. There's no way I could just sit and read all of that and really retain information. My biggest way to learn was, I mean, you have your lecture with your teacher. There's also lectures online that are available to watch, and that's what I did. I watched a lot of lectures online with other teachers, and somebody in my class found an instructor that taught pathophysiology at another school with the same textbook that we're required to use, and he lectured it and he recorded them, and they were all available on YouTube. So that was super helpful to watch. Helped solidify the information. But still, even at that, that is not enough studying. You need to be practicing questions over and over and over again. And these questions help you learn as you're practicing them, but also help you learn how to answer these questions properly. Because I said it in many of my videos, the questions are like kind of trying to trick you. If you read them too fast and you skip over a word, if you just make one little error, you can get it wrong immediately. If I don't know a question on an exam, if I'm completely clueless, I will just skip it. And I'll go back to it, because sometimes answering other questions kind of helps make your, I don't know, kind of gets your juices flowing and can help you with that question. Or maybe you didn't know it 10 minutes ago, but then something comes back to you. There is so much studying that needs to be done in patho, and it was just such a hard class. It was so hard. We had 2 midterms and a final, and then a mock HESI. On the first midterm we had, which was about 2 or 3 weeks into my term, I got a 90 something, and then on my second midterm, I think I got a 90. And then on my final, which I am shocked, I thought that I had failed it, I actually got a 96. And then we had a mock HESI. So I've never taken a HESI before. I know some people have to take HESIs to get into nursing school. I talked about it with my brother, because my brother is a second-year nursing student, and he has never taken what we took before because it was a mock HESI. So it wasn't computerized, it was a written test, and it was directly related to patho questions. And another thing that I want to mention about pathophysiology too is that you're incorporating not only your A and P information, but pharmacology comes into play. Chronic comes into play. It all is working closely together because you talk about medications in patho. You didn't learn about those in patho, you learned about those in pharmacology. I was super worried about this mock HESI, as I should have been. And I just didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to study for it. Neither did a lot of people in my cohort. What happened was the day that we had the HESI, we actually had our patho final. So we went and completed our patho final, and then we had a couple hours break and had lunch, and then we had our HESI final. We didn't really get a lot of information about how to study for it. And it wasn't a hard, I say this, but it wasn't a hard test. It was an application test where you apply what you've learned and you're put in a scenario with a patient, right? And this person has these lab values and this going on. Interpret this data and what do you do next? Or you have these 4 patients with this, this, and this, and that. Who should you see first? Who is the most important individual to be seen as you enter your nursing shift? After I completed that final, I just felt really bad. Like I just knew I didn't do good. I figured, to be honest with you, I figured I failed either my patho final or my mock HESI. I had a feeling that I failed one of them, which is like never a good feeling to leave with, and you shouldn't leave with that, but it happens. I wasn't the only one that felt that way, but we didn't get our grades back that day because my patho teacher had a lot of other assignments to grade. Oh my gosh, I just realized I didn't even discuss assignments in patho. I'm gonna discuss that first before I tell you what happened with my grade. In patho, we had several assignments. We had quizzes weekly, and then we had something called case studies. And you can find these online, you can practice them, but you're given this like whole scenario, whatever, you know what I mean. You're given this whole explanation of this person, this patient, and then you have to answer like 4 to 8 questions on it. And so we have these case studies. We had like 2 of them a week, sometimes 4, and they're just super, super time consuming. They allow you to learn a lot of information because it's over each of the chapters that you're learning in patho, so it corresponds with the chapters that we're learning, but they are really time consuming because they're very detailed. And something my teacher did that was really awesome at the end of the term, she allowed extra credit with them. So she would assign maybe 3 case studies and we'd only have to complete 1, and if we wanted to do the extra 2, we could get extra credit. So potentially you could get 15 points out of 5 if you got a perfect score on all of them. So that was absolutely amazing because that class is so hard, so any sort of extra credit or help in it was great. I mean, in all the classes we have our course objectives that we have to complete. Oh, we had reflections, so every other week we reflected back on patho and we had to answer a couple questions in a couple paragraphs in APA format and things like that. Now I'm going to tell you what I got. So, people, well, I failed a test. I failed my mock HESI. I got a 67%. So anything below a 75% in nursing school in my program is failing. And then if you get below a 70%, you get a strike. And I've mentioned these strikes before. So basically you can only get 3 strikes and then you get the boot, released, kicked out from the program. I have 1 strike now. So I got a 67%. We're able to see the class average and things like that. I think my class average was a 79%. Somebody got a 98, that was the highest, and I think the lowest was like a 53%. So, you know, it wasn't an easy test and I wasn't alone in that, and I'm not gonna dive too much into that. I wanna make a whole separate video kind of discussing me failing the test and all of that. But I just want to leave this here that if that has happened to you, know that you're not alone. I know several people that failed it with me, and I feel like I'm fine now because so much time has passed. But when I initially found out, it was just like, it just sucked. And I wasn't even sure what my grade was going to be because that test was worth 100 points. So that was just, it was a lot. Because, you know, I felt relieved that the term was over, but then finding out my score on that just was really discouraging. However, it happens and it's not the end of the world, and you learn, I learn, you know, I now have an idea of what these mock HESIs are like, and I feel like I know how to study for them better. We'll find out next term. But I'm not gonna dive into too much of that. I just wanna say this as a reminder, if anything like that has happened to you, please know you're not alone, and I'm right there with you. But somehow, I got an A in the class. So I got an A in Pathophysiology, which I'm super happy about and proud of myself, and I'm also just so happy that the term is over, and oh my gosh. Although next term is gonna be the exact same thing. But now I feel better prepared for it. Now I just know how to better prepare myself for the assignments, not wait last minute. So my second term of nursing school is over. I'm in the middle of my spring break. I am just so happy to finally get a break. It's so weird to have time to do nothing, but every night I still have dreams about nursing school. I'm like dreaming about medications. So it's still like going on in my head, but at least I don't have any assignments that need to be done. I just wanted to give you guys an update on my second term, and I know in my previous videos in my first term, I had just mentioned that I just felt like I had a lot of free time and things like that, but that was not the case with this term of school. And it's hard. Nursing school is very difficult, and you really have to put in the time, but if you want it, you will succeed. And it's amazing because you're not alone. You're surrounded by groups of people in your program that are all going through this process with you. If you ever need to talk to somebody, you can talk to somebody because they're all feeling the same way. Whether you think they're not, they are. It's so overwhelming. It just feels kind of like you're drowning in school a little bit, but once you actually start applying the knowledge that you're learning when you're in a patient's room in the hospital, it just starts to make sense, and it reminds you of why you're doing what you're doing. And I remember there was a time when I was in a patient's room, and as a nurse, whenever the doctor comes and does rounds, it's always really good to be in the room with the doctor so you can answer any of the questions and then also see what they're saying to the patient, just so you can have more information and you want to be there. There was a time when I was in a room with my nurse that I was shadowing for the day, and the doctor and the patient, and it was amazing because comparing this to like my first week and then to week 9, I had no idea what they were saying. It sounded like gibberish. I just like didn't understand anything that they were saying. And then week 9, I get it. Like I can understand their conversation. I understand what they're saying to each other. It's the same thing when you go into the hospital in the morning and you have report. And so the night nurse gives the morning nurse report of all the patients that you will be having for the day. And it's the same thing. They would talk so fast. Well, this patient has COPD and a left pneumothorax and heart failure. And I mean, just using all this terminology, I just really didn't understand. Maybe I've heard it before, but I never really understood the concepts. Now it's all clicking and it's making sense, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I just wanted to share with you guys an update on school. You know, not everything went perfect. I did have an experience where I submitted an assignment that wasn't correct. I had this whole freak out because I guess my Microsoft Word wasn't on automatic save. I did around 10 hours of work on an assignment, and I'm actually not kidding, like literally 10 hours of work. And I submitted this assignment, but I actually submitted the wrong assignment. I submitted an old assignment. So I didn't save this 10 hours of work. And when I went to submit it, I submitted a previous week assignment. But by the time I had finished with that assignment, I didn't go and check and make sure everything was correct. Because normally when you submit it online to your instructor, you can just click on it and just see what they see. And usually I would do that, but I was just so done. I was like, okay, I finally finished it. I'm just submitting it. I shut my computer and like let it be. I noticed it several days later that I had done that, and I started freaking out, looking everywhere on my computer for this assignment, and it was just gone. I spent like 2 or 3 hours trying to recover it, and I realized that my save automatically wasn't on Microsoft Word. It wasn't like checked. And then, long story short, I had to like dig through the trash looking for pieces of paper, and it was just a nightmare, and I cried several times. I cried a lot this term for being so stressed out. Long story short, everything worked out with that assignment, and if it can be a lesson to you, I just want to reiterate, double check your work, triple check it, seriously, and just be really diligent about doing things properly, because this is a serious career and you need to double check everything that you're doing because you're dealing with people's lives. So mistakes happen, you learn from them. I learned, now I'm not doing that anymore. I'm always gonna look after I submit it. No matter how relieved I am and I just wanna slam my computer shut, I'm just gonna double check. If you're in school right now, even if you're not in school for nursing, or if you're doing your prerequisites, or if you're thinking about it, or whatever you are doing, I wish you luck with everything, and know that if you're having any hard times, you feel overwhelmed or stressed, or you're struggling, you're just not alone. I'm right there with you, and just keep that in mind. I hope this video was insightful. You were able to learn something from me, but yeah, I'm gonna go now, and I'm probably, well, it's my spring break, so I'm probably gonna go do nothing. I promise to be more active on this channel, especially with this next term, now that I have more of an idea of how to tackle it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have like 1,600 subscribers. I never thought that would happen, and that's amazing, and thank you. I hope you guys are having a great rest of your morning, afternoon, evening. If you're in your pajamas too, good for you. I'm so excited to continue sharing my journey with you guys. I can't wait to see what else is in store, and yeah, again, just thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Girls, come here. Come here. You want to say goodbye? Oh, you do. She does. Bye, guys.